Welcome to the Plant Conservation Centre. Today we're going to take you on a unique behind-the-scenes tour of this unit. The purpose of this centre is to conserve all the National Trust's rare and unusual plants from their gardens across the country. This is a biosecure site, isolated away from any major plant collections, just to make sure we don't get any infections of either pests or diseases which will harm our significant plants that we're propagating on site here. We're not open to National Trust visitors, so this is your chance now to have a look around. Well, I've been propagating plants since I was about 12, so quite a while now. All that experience has led me to this job in looking after this unique facility for the National Trust. We're now inside the Plant Conservation Centre, and we're now going to see Simon Toomer, who will introduce some of the unique plants we have here growing at the site and the links to our properties.
First impression arriving at the Plant Conservation Centre is, wow, what an amazing variety of plants. And they're gathered from all our gardens, over 200 gardens all over the country. So as well as being en masse, they're a fantastic site. They've also got individual stories to tell, not just about the plant themselves, but also about the particular garden they come from. And this is a really interesting example. This is rhododendron falconeri, one of the rare rhododendrons from the Himalayas, the eastern Himalayas, collected in the middle of the 19th century by a very famous eminent botanist called Joseph Hooker, who's also the director at Kew Gardens. And he was a friend of Charles Darwin, and he passed a number of these brand new plants that he discovered to Charles Darwin, who often passed them on to his sister, Caroline Wedgwood, who lived at Leith Hill. We think this is a plant, one of the originals that was given by Hooker to Darwin, and it's a fantastic example. It flowers beautifully still, and it really illustrates that wonderful period in the middle of the 19th century when a lot of plants were being introduced to our gardens. This is another really fascinating plant with an interesting story behind it, this time from Emmet's garden in Kent. It's kind of azalea, as you can see. It's a really bright, colourful azalea, and it's what gardeners often call one of the Ghent hybrids. In Belgium, particularly in the 19th century, there was a real craze for hybridising azaleas, and this was one that was grown at Emmet's, and actually everyone thought it had become extinct, but it was rediscovered growing near the old tennis court, just a very sort of suppressed plant, and it was sent here, as many plants are, to be propagated. It was quite difficult because it was a very old plant. It was propagated by a technique called micropropagation, and now there are a number of plants alive, and many of them have been sent back to Emmet's. This is one we keep here just so that we can propagate more if we need to. But it's a really good example of where the Plant Conservation Centre has been so successful in making sure that some of these very rare cultivated plants are conserved. Many of the National Trust's gardens and parks and outdoor places also have some amazing individual trees of historical significance. This is one of them. This is the Ankerwick yew from Ankerwick, not surprisingly. These young plants have been propagated from the original, which is a really ancient yew tree, well over 1,000 years old probably. Well known not because of its age, or not just because of its age, but because it's thought to be the tree under which the Magna Carta was signed all those years ago. And we've propagated it in order to conserve it. A tree that age, has probably got some unusual genetic makeup, but also we may want to plant it in other places. In fact, we will plant some replicas, but also it's a safeguard in case that tree should ever die. Most gardeners are aware that in the last few years, box plants have been really under pressure and challenged by a range of pests and diseases. Box blight is one of the best known, but then there's also a little moth called box tree caterpillar. And one of the important components of many of our gardens is a box parterre. And when you lose all your box plants, that's not a great thing. So what the National Trust has been doing, we've been a combination of trying to conserve box where it's really important through a number of horticultural methods, but also where necessary and where it's appropriate, actually looking for alternative species that serve the same purpose. And that's one of the important things they've been doing here at the Plant Conservation Centre, is to propagate these different plants that actually look quite similar to box, and we've been trialling them in various gardens. You can see a few examples here. There's a Japanese spindle, there's a kind of berberis, and just behind me we've also got a small leaf privet, and they're very successful in many places. As I say, by combining conserving box and trying alternatives, you know, we are conserving these historically important pairs.
Thanks very much for all your support in looking after our places, including the Plant Conservation Centre.